Did you know that no-code tools can help you build an app at just 1% of the cost that it would take to build an app with developers? I mean, that's amazing. But how do you know which no-code tools to use? Listen to this episode to find out. Welcome to the Tech for Non-Techies podcast. I'm your host, tech entrepreneur, executive coach, and Chicago Booth MBA, Sophia Matveeva. My aim here is to help you have a great career in the digital age. In a time when even your coffee shop has an app, you simply have to speak tech. On this podcast, I share core technology concepts, help you relate them to business outcomes, and most importantly, share practical advice on what you can do to become a digital leader today. If you want to have a great career in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Hello, smart people. How are you today? I'm now back in London after a glorious week in Bahrain, and the temperature drop is real. Last week, I told you about the no-code revolution, and that's a smidgen of the course that I was teaching to entrepreneurs in Bahrain. And speaking of no-code tools, did you know that this podcast is listed as one of the best no-code podcasts in the world? Well, so to honor that, here is another lesson on no-code tools. Today's lesson is obviously relevant to founders and corporate innovators who want to build products to test their ideas. I also recommend that anybody in the investment community who invest in tech products, so especially angel investors, listen to this. If you're investing in early stage product innovation, either as a CFO or as a head of innovation or as an actual investor, the more you understand the product development landscape, the better investment decisions you'll be able to make, and that's how you become smart money. And I'm assuming you want to be smart money, not stupid money, right? But if you want to work with tech companies and venture capitalists as your clients, so for example, if you're a lawyer or a banker, this episode is not going to be super relevant because today's class is going to be quite detailed and technical. So come back next week for a different kind of lesson. In today's class, I'm going to share a decision-making framework with you to help you choose the right no-code tools for your project. Right now, there is a plethora of no-code tools available to you, and more keep on being added to the mix. So I can tell you about some of the tools that I like today, but literally that's going to be different in 6 months' time. That's why learning a framework for how to choose the right tools is more important than me telling you, use this tool, this is how you use it, this is what you do today, because features change, product change. This is one of the things that I love about the innovation economy. There's always something new. There's always something to learn. This is why getting a learning framework is better than knowing how to use a tool. And for tutorials on specific things, there is a site called nocode.tech, which is quite useful. So when you are thinking about what no-code tool to use for your project, step one is to stop thinking about the tool. Think about the problem that you are solving and whom you're solving it for. Always keep that person, keep your user in mind. Based on that, think about the functionality that your user needs to have. So what features need to go into your product based on how somebody is going to use your product? So for example, are you going to store medical data or credit card information? This stuff has to be kept super secure. So if the answer is yes, you might need to have double encryption, or you might need to have really special safety features in your product. Think about how your users will use the product in a very kind of practical way. Like, will they use it on their mobiles or on their computers? Will they have fast internet, or will their internet be patchy? Will they have Wi-Fi, or will they be on 4G? The more you know about how people will use your product, the better the product can be. So for example, if your users are going to have to pay for lots and lots of data, they're not going to want to download videos. But if data is really cheap where they are, or if most people who are going to be using your products don't care about the price of the data because you're making an enterprise thing, then, create videos all you like. Basically, the more you know about how people will use your product, the better the product can be. So right now, for example, Bubble and Glide are the best no-code tools for mobile use, but I wouldn't really bother with them for desktop because they're quite complicated. And by the way, these same questions about how people use your product or kind of internet connectivity they'll have, these same questions, they apply if you're building custom software too. So basically, when you're building a product from scratch. So this is a useful exercise to do no matter what. And only after you're clear on how people will use your product should you start thinking about tools. And now that we're thinking about tools, the first question to ask is, does this tool have the functionality I need for my product? So, for example, if one of your features that you need is to upload videos, does this functionality exist? Or, for example, if your aim is to sell stuff via your product, can you collect payments? How are you going to collect payments? Just check that out before you sign up to anything. And this brings me to my next point, which is integration. Can you connect the no-code tool you're going to use, like Bubble or Glide or Squarespace? Can you connect that to other tools, like, for example, PayPal and Stripe? PayPal and Stripe are tools that allow you to connect payments, but you need to be able to connect PayPal to whatever website or app that you're building. So some tools allow you to integrate, some don't. So check that out. And then the second and equally important question is, how easy is it for me to learn to use this tool? And my dear smart person, I know that you're really smart, you're really ambitious. So I'm begging you, don't be idealistic here. And remember that you only live once. If you're listening to this when it comes out, like, this is the summer. Enjoy it. Get some ice cream. Go to the beach. Don't spend all your time figuring out how to use a no-code tool. If you need to build a product to test an idea, please don't spend lots of time learning how to use a tool. That defeats the point. If you want to build a web app, Squarespace is easier to learn than Bubble. But, it doesn't have Bubble's functionality. And in general, the easier something is for you to learn to use, the less customizable it is. So basically, if you're totally new to no-code tools, if you've never built a product, if also you've never coded anything, because no-code tools are annoyingly easier to use for people who've coded stuff. If you've never done any kind of product development, then please do not try to make a super customizable thing as your first ever attempt. It's going to be really hard, and I don't want you to give up. So let's make this journey as easy as possible for you, because creating something is better than creating nothing. Because when you have something, you can use it to learn and to gather data. So the general rule is pick the easiest route forward and get moving, and then have an ice cream. Also, have a look whether a tool has a supportive community or good customer support, because that can make a really big difference. And I speak from experience. So, for example, I use a no-code tool called Kajabi for my online courses. So the entire backend of my business's website, techfornontechies.co, is built using Kajabi, the no-code tool. And it's a tool especially for e-learning businesses. And, they're not cheap, but they have really helpful customer service and a really sizable, lively community on Facebook where you can post a question and people will generally try to help. And I have personally found this useful. So I don't manage that anymore. My assistant does that. But at the beginning, I built absolutely everything myself with my bare hands. And tutorials and video lessons, they were useful. They got me to create something, but we all get stuck sometimes. And this is where human help from a community or from customer service or maybe from a friend who knows how to use the thing, this is really helpful. So if you're thinking about a tool and there is no community and there is no customer service and you've got no connections who've used it, it's going to be really hard to learn. So maybe try something else. Okay, so let's recap. First, see whether the tool that you're considering has the functionality you need, including whether you can integrate it with other online services like PayPal for payments or maybe Google Maps if you want to get location data. Then, see how easy it is to learn to use this tool. And if the learning curve is too steep or too lonely, look for an alternative. And now, for my third point, look at the tool's pricing model. No-code tools are usually free to start with and then go up in price when you get more users, which
basically makes sense, right? So, for example, MailChimp is a really great tool for sending mass emails. So, lots of mass marketing that you get in your email inboxes, it's actually probably done via MailChimp. It's free at the beginning, but then it gets expensive quite quickly. So the more emails you add to MailChimp, the more addresses you add, the more expensive it becomes. And this basically assumes that somehow you will get money when you get more users. So it could be because those users are paying you for a subscription, or maybe you're selling advertising, or you're selling actual products, or maybe you're going to get investment funding when you get more users. Whatever the case may be, you need the money. So, what's the plan, Stan? Where's the money going to come from when you get popular? And if you are really at the very early stages of just testing an idea, I know that you're not going to know this because the only way you know this is by basically testing it. So just have some ideas, have some options for how you're going to pay for stuff when it becomes expensive. Don't sign up for free tiers of expensive tools without a plan for how to pay for those inevitable upgrades. And finally, a lot of no-code tools aren't great for scaling, but some are. So it's a good idea to check if the tool that you're using can scale well. But realistically, it is quite hard to tell from the beginning, especially if you have no technical experience. So basically, if you know the answer to this question, if you know whether it scales well or if it doesn't, then great, fantastic. Brownie points for you. But if you can't tell if a particular tool can scale well, then don't stress too much about it. Just start making something and then you'll find out. Because if you make something and it starts growing and you start getting more and more popular, and then you find out that the tool you've used doesn't scale, that's a really good problem to have because essentially popularity is a good problem to have. When you're popular and you've got users and those users can somehow be monetized, then you can raise money or you could actually use the revenue from those users to afford another tool that can scale well or to basically build a custom thing. So this is why, yes, lots of people are going to tell you that no-code tools don't scale well, and that is true. But also, I don't want you to stress about it because scale is a good problem to have. And before you get there, you're going to have lots of bad problems. So don't worry about the good problems. And most importantly, my dear smart person, if you don't know the answers to all of these questions, just try a tool and see what happens. Product innovation is an arena where you learn by doing, whether you're writing code or using no-code tools. It is not a theoretical science. It is a very practical endeavor. Like, think about it. You can watch all the cookery shows in the world, but if you have never actually cooked anything, all your cooking show knowledge is going to be meaningless. And it's literally the same with product development. So my advice is think through your product, research which tools have the functionality and support you need, look at the pricing structure, and then think about scale. But don't spend too much time on doing this because you have to be really careful of analysis paralysis. If you're listening to this episode, you clearly want to build a product. That's why you're here. And that means that for you, time is of the essence. And, you also live once. So don't waste your time by considering all of your options and by trying to get all of the answers to my questions, because there are going to be too many options for you to choose from and you will go mad. Successful people take steps forward with imperfect information. So make a choice, try something out. If it doesn't work, make another choice. And remember that you can do this. This is how we build product. This is how we build companies, and this is how we build fantastic careers. And that's it for this lesson, my dear smart person. If you found this episode useful, then please give this show a rating and a review. It takes me a lot of time and effort to make these educational episodes for you. So if you get value from them, please help me spread the word. It would really, really be wonderful for you to do that. Ratings and reviews let the algorithms and also humans know that this show is worth listening to. And that really helps them and it helps me. And by them, I mean humans, not algorithms. We don't care about them. Anyway, let's help as many smart people as we can succeed in the digital age. And on that note, I wish you a wonderful day today, and I shall be back in your delightful smart ears next week. Ciao!